6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Lamani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister says that the aim is to take forward the international recognition that Sri Lanka has received. Japan to resume projects in Sri Lanka. Letters of appointment presented to 1,674 graduates to fill the teacher vacancies in the northwestern province. About 1,713 kilograms of smuggled tendu leaves recovered. The opposition leader has pointed out the need to commence export-centered economic development in the country. In news overseas, the French Prime Minister in final appeal to stop far-right victory. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that the aim is to take forward the international recognition that Sri Lanka has received. A problematic situation has been created due to amending some rules and regulations which have existed for a long time. The Prime Minister also stated that the government has the ability to solve these issues through discussions. He made these remarks at a meeting with the registrars of the rural areas at Temple Trees yesterday. He appreciated the service rendered by the state workers to rescue the country from economic crisis. The Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Mitsukoshi Hideki, said that Japan will promptly resume its projects in Sri Lanka that were previously halted once the related MOUs are signed. During a media conference held in Colombo recently, Ambassador Hideki stated that Sri Lanka has expressed its appreciation for the debt restructuring agreements signed with the bilateral creditors. The ambassador also mentioned that Japan will provide continuous support for the recovery of Sri Lanka's economy. Letters of appointment have been presented to 1,674 graduates to fill the teacher vacancies in the northwestern province. These graduates have been selected after conducting interviews and competent exams. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. The police announced that it will destroy 1,208 kilograms of drugs today, including 614 kilograms of ice, 30 kilograms of heroin, and 581 kilograms of ketamine. The destruction process will take place at the Vanathavilua Lactose Estate using high-powered drug incinerator under the supervision of the Puttala magistrate, NDDCB representatives, government analysts and police anti-narcotics bureau officers. Separate search operations conducted by Sri Lanka Navy in the sea area of Mudalapai and the land area of Nuraichole led to the recovery of about 1,713 kilograms of tendu leaves. Sri Lanka Navy conducts regular search operations and patrols in the coastal areas of the island with a view to prevent the influx of wide range of illegal items into the island. As an extension of these efforts, Sri Lanka Navy Service Vijaya and the Northwestern Naval Command retrieved 14 sacks of tendu leaves weighing about 513 kilograms adrift in the water during a search operation conducted in the Mudalaipai sea area of Kalpitia. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa has pointed out the need to commence export-centered economic development in the country. Knowledge-centered economic development should also be created. He made these remarks while participating at a program to provide smart classrooms to the Muraketiya Madhyama Vidyalaya in Kolonne, Abilipitia. He stated that he is engaged in this program to strengthen the education sector in the country. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The Prime Minister says that the aim is to take forward the international recognition that Sri Lanka has received. Japan to resume projects in Sri Lanka. Letters of appointment presented to 1,674 graduates to fill the teacher vacancies in the northwestern province. About 1,713 kilograms of smuggled tendu leaves recovered. The opposition leader has pointed out the need to commence export-centered economic development in the country. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda Mahatmya.
The main news story for this evening, according to the Department of Census and Statistics, the inflation in the Colombo urban area increased to 1.7% in June from 0.9% in May. Citing calculations by the Colombo Consumer Price Index, the department said food inflation increased to 1.4% in June from 0% in May, while the inflation in the non-food category increased from 1.3% to 1.8% during the period. Sri Lanka's inflation at the national level decreased to 1.6% in May from 2.7% in April, according to the National Consumer Price Index. Inflation was at 69.8% in September 2022 when the country experienced an economic crisis. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
In Washington this evening, a mobile service to identify beneficiaries of the national program to provide 2 million land lead is being implemented these days. This program will be conducted in all division secretariat divisions in the Kandy district. And that came to you in the segment of Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the world news: the French Prime Minister in final appeal to stop far-right victory. Panama Papers, quote, acquits all 20 charged with money laundering. Candidates neck and neck in Iran's presidential election. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. France's lightning-quick election campaign is over, and despite last-ditch appeals not to back the far right, voters appear ready to hand the National Rally Party a historic victory in parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal warned it would unleash impulses of hate and aggression. But the party of Marine Le Pen and the 28-year-old John Mandela, who would be the next Prime Minister if has anything cemented, is in lead of the opinion polls. National Rally has fended off a series of accusations of racism involving party members as much as supporters. The big question now is whether it can win an absolute majority in 2 rounds over the next 2 Sundays. A Panamanian court has acquitted all 28 people charged with money laundering in connection with the Panama Papers scandal, concluding a trial that began in April. The secret financial documents were leaked in the year 2016, revealing how some of the world's richest and most powerful people used tax haven to hide their wealth. Among those exonerated were Jürgen Mossack and late Ramon Fonseca, founder of Mossack Fonseca, the defunct law firm at the center of the scandal. Judge Belois Marquez said that the evidence considered by the court was not sufficient to determine the criminal responsibility of the defendants. Hardline candidate Saeed Jalili and reformist Masoud Pezeshkian are neck and neck in Iran's presidential election. Both candidates have been hovering around 40% of the vote, with more than 8 million ballots already counted, with each overtaking the other in recent hours. The election will go to a second round set for next Friday if neither Mr. Jalili or Pezeshkian win 50% of the vote. 2 security force members were killed after unidentified gunmen attacked a vehicle carrying election boxes in the sister Burusha province, according to state media reports. And that was the world news.
Development news.
In development news, the Department of Agriculture has taken measures to construct ground floor of the women's hostel of the Agricultural Vidyalaya Labaduva in Galle. 9.3 million rupees will be spent for the project. It is expected to complete the construction work within the next 6 months. And that came to you in the segment of development news.
Moving on with sports news.
The final match of the World Championship T20 cricket tournament will be played in Bridgetown today. South Africa and India will compete. The match will commence at 8 p.m. today. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekathiana youth cricket life ke change kat niyam ta set na as wahagena dekhuina habe karana youth cricket niyam ta set na friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A new branch of the state Osasala network was opened in Galle Town today. Minister Dr. Ramesh Pathirana participated as a chief guest at this event. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, a new paddy variety has been produced by the Paddy Research Institute in Ambalantota. This is a new variety of basmati rice. Better harvests can be reaped by cultivating this variety. The objective is to expand this paddy variety to other areas as well. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. Several spells of showers will occur in the western, Sabargamua and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and particular districts in the evening or night. Strong winds of about 50 km per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee, Hambantota and Moraragala districts. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The Prime Minister says that the aim is to take forward the international recognition that Sri Lanka has received. Japan to resume projects in Sri Lanka. Letters of appointment presented to 1,674 graduates to fill the teacher vacancies in the northwestern province. About 1,713 kilograms of smuggled tendu leaves recovered. The opposition leader has pointed out the need to commence export-centered economic development in the country. And in news overseas, the French Prime Minister in final appeal to stop far-right victory. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now it's over to Dilshan on the other side of the glass panel to do the needful.